Yeah, I had a tough time. Arranging a list myself because and some books I read overlapped. They had the same theme but told differently. There's a lot of synchronicities in what I read this year. But number 10 for me was Devil in the Dark Woods by Mark Gillespie, about Mike and Anita, this really train wreck couple, having a huge fight and then a breakup. Mike is a director, and I think Anita is a singer. But they have a huge fight and break up, and basically Anita pours out her wrath on him by sicking her daddy Lucifer on him uh, as he tries to drive home. It's like the trip gets longer and longer, and the woods he's driving through get darker and darker, and things start happening, to make his life a living hell. He has a phobia of the police, and of course he gets pulled over. His brother was shot by the police, so because he's black, so uh, and
Did Ben
he,
fall asleep?
I don't
No,
know.
I'm still here.
Okay,
Okay.
he's
Am I
just
am I breathing heavy?
Yeah.
Oh,
sinuses.
sorry. I'll move away from the mic.
Okay.
So Devil in the Dark Woods. I almost feel like there's more to be said on this situation with Daddy Devil and Daughter Devil, and Mike, kind of getting his entanglement with them. Um, but
So wait, her dad is the literal devil.
the literal devil, yes.
Okay. All
Um,
right. And she's
and
just dating some guy named Mike.
well, he's a director. He's in entertainment.
He's a film director.
They're
Okay.
both
So
into
that makes
entertainment.
sense.
They're
That,
both entertainers of some degree.
right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Um,
Yeah, her dad is the one that makes all entertainers.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
got to suck the Satan cock to make it big.
Yes, indeed.
So number 9 is Crimson Falls by Edward J. McFadden III. About Alex, who is a tour guide for Mist's Edge at Niagara Falls. And he becomes consumed with the local folklore about this monster that supposedly emerges every 50 years, I think, or maybe 60 years, after this tourist vessel capsizes during a mysterious and violent attack. I mean, there's blood in the water, and it's a real bad situation. But he becomes consumed with finding out what's going on, and it's this giant, I guess, centipede or arthropod, scorpion, I guess, yeah, something in between, maybe a hybrid. But basically, and he assembles this team, of like a geologist and you know, and a bunch of others to figure out what's going on. And like I said before, what I loved about this book was that McFadden didn't fall back on the tired trope that the main character is an author. I've grown so tired of author main characters. He actually has a job that he goes to with responsibilities. He doesn't sit around the house, and with his thumb up his ass and play with himself. No, he actually gets out there and leads tours for tourists. And you know, people could, authors could learn something, from this guy. And the fact that he chose to embed his main character in something, halfway, grounded on earth, instead of letting him be an author that sits at home while his wife goes to work and fosters his dream. I'm just so tired and I'm over author main characters in books.
But but why are you specifically saying this in this particular instance, right? I mean, there's a
Because
lot of
he could have
books.
very easily been an author main character. It's just like, I mean, I've seen it over and over, and I mean, it's like only Stephen King and a few others really pull it off well. Anyway, Stephen King, Ray Bradbury, Dean Koontz,
But
they
why?
can pull
My
off.
question is, why didn't you mention this when you were talking about the last book? They didn't have an author main character either, right?
Yeah, but because you know you you get the sense that he could have fallen back on that trope more with Crimson Falls than Devil in the Dark Woods. Devil in the Dark Woods, it's more of a hipster, alternative type main character. Whereas Alex in Crimson Falls, he just he settles differently into the narrative, where
So
he could have been an author, but
the
instead
tour guide aspect, does it have to be a tour guide, dude? Is that what you're getting at? Is that
well, I mean, he knows the most about the area, so yeah. And there's also an interesting little side plot where he reunites with this ex-girlfriend from high school that happens to be, a deputy. And she kind of gives him some breaks, some scoops on what's going on, as they investigate, this massacre on the sea, open sea, um, that happened with Our Lady of the Mist, which is the name of the ship that got attacked. Um, so yeah, there's even some good side plots that are solid in this. I'm pretty taken with McFadden's style, and he just happened to release a new book either today or yesterday called Wolves of the Sea, about killer orca whales, I guess. And I guess I'll pull it up real fast just to give you a visual. Um,
That's right. Yeah, I remember you saying something about this.
yes.
And I was looking at that cover, and he's ripping off my covers.
You what?
He's ripping off the cover of Taboogasm, right?
I guess it's possible.
No, he's not. I'm being silly. There's no the cover of this one.
Now he hasn't put it up yet on Goodreads. Damn it! This is gonna make this part of the show drag a little bit. Here we go. Is it still showing? Okay, there we go. Wolves of the Sea.
Yeah. So, this is, I see, okay, so it sounds like this is basically a creature feature kind of book. Are you
Yes.
generally a creature feature kind of book person? Doesn't seem like it.
I didn't used to be, but I became one this year quite a bit. Yeah. I'm still trying to catch up on all the Halloween reading that I meant to get through 2 years ago. See,
Oh,
I stocked I stocked up on so much for like Halloween 2 or 3 years ago that I'm still trying to get through. That's why so many of my entries here on the last list or two have been horror mainly.
right.
So
See, a creature feature isn't necessarily a big sell for me. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's not something I would typically.
well, these are generally better quality than the sci-fi originals. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I even something that's good quality creature feature is just I'm just saying that like that's not a subgenre that I'm drawn to per se.
Mm.
Not that I wouldn't read a creature feature book.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, David Triffid's is creature feature book to a certain degree.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Hang on one second. I just want him to know I'm covering it.
What? What are you talking about? Huh? What?
Nothing.
Whoa.
So anyway, number 8, The Bloody Tracks of Bigfoot by David Irons. Yes, another
Yeah.
creature feature about this film crew who goes up on Onion Mountain in Portland, Oregon, and they start a horrible chain reaction of violence during the final explosion that wraps their shoot, and soon they become hunted by Bigfoot, and the director's ambitions grow much darker. He suddenly abandons his idea of mountaintop madman massacre, and suddenly he's more interested in filming a documentary, huh? I mean, and or even a snuff film. He doesn't really care at this point. He becomes so maddened, like so insane with ambition that he goes out of his way to put them in more danger with Bigfoot and himself. I mean, like he holds a gun on them at one point. You know. and he tries to wreck the car purposefully when they're trying to get away from Bigfoot. I mean, so it's very high octane, action thriller, with a cryptid, and so I loved it. David Irons also wrote a book about Polybius, the long rumored, our haunted arcade game. You know,
Hmm.
we've all heard of that fascinating legend. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
David Irons
I
also
mean,
has very epic covers.
James Rolfe basically made what was a short horror film about Polybius, and it was better than the Nerd movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's like it says that it's a angry video game nerd episode, but it says it's of Polybius, and it's basically a low budget horror film of the nerd in a warehouse trying to review Polybius, but constantly failing because for some reason he can't record it.
Won't let him record, huh?
Yeah.
So number 7. Oh man, now we're getting into the really awesome ones. The Lunchling by Jay Alexander, about okay, so there's this family, and these parents are they really struggle to get their son to eat. For some reason, he doesn't like to eat, and they start using this puppet that they found in the forest, and he was like all tattered and shredded, kind of real gnarly looking, dingy, and that they use him to kind of persuade or scare the boy into eating, and it works. But soon, it starts to develop a mind of its own, and it speaks through them, and they're not the ones saying what they're saying. It's almost like he's become their ventriloquist, and they start to get bitten when they put the puppet on,
Huh.
and it starts to quickly grow out of control from there. And
Yeah, I'll probably read this. This looks good.
someone, this is an author main character in this.
Oh
Um,
no.
one of his big ideas was stolen by this woman, and she sends him an axe uh, that's like a prop from the show that is based on his idea that she stole, just to rub it in. And the axe comes into play when they're dealing with the Lunchling and trying to figure out what to do. And there's the backstory of the Lunchling and where it came from, where they found it in the woods. I would love to see more and have it explained, what's going on, there, because there's room for some world building there. It's not like Fairies of the Woods, but it's something much darker that is hinted at. And I would love to know more about that. But the Lunchling is fucking awesome. Yeah. Especially some of the, decisions that the main character employs to fight the thing. Um,
So have you read anything else by Jay Alexander? I've not heard of that individual.
No, I looked up some of his books, and it seems a lot of them were taken out of print,
Hmm.
like as soon as they were released. Like, for instance, I've got Starving Grounds. It may have been taken down. Okay, it's still there, but his other book, the moths are the moths are already here.
Hmm.
It's already been taken out of print. I don't get it. Like, why
Hmm.
would you do that the same year that you release it? I
Maybe
have
he's
one
maybe
off.
he's like a Zach Magaha.
Yeah, I mean that's obnoxious though. The moths are here already. There we go. April 13th, 2022. And you see it's already out of print, limited availability.
Hmm.
It was released just a few months ago.
Okay, back to your list.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to see, is it really about killer moths, or I mean, like what could have happened? What could have gone wrong for him to take it out of print that
Ask
fast?
him to come onto the show and explain himself.
I would love to. Uh, So number 6, The Horror by David Sodergren, which I already spoke about, but this Scottish village is basically been it's being taken over by a developer who employs, hoodlums to either scare, the remaining residents out of their homes, or commit vandalism to, forcibly remove them. And they start to fight back. And Muriel has a son that died, uh, early in his adulthood. She happens upon this creature in the water, um, and it kind of follows her home, and it protects her from one of these hoodlums that is, out to do her in. And it continues to protect, and defend against all these intruders that are coming to intimidate, put the scare into her, get out of this village, take the deal, you could start over with all this money. And she's not interested, and her best friend is killed in a fire, a mysterious fire that, mysteriously starts. This creature, after it is fed on so many bodies, begins to assume of its own, independence, the form and visage of her dead son. And from there, they kind of become inextricably linked in this fight against, the evil land developer and his minions. Um, and I mean, the last chapter or two, I mean, it really gets explosive, without giving any more away. It's maybe I'm not making it seem as awesome as it is, but it isn't. It is really, thrilling. Number 5, Steel Breeze by Douglas Wynn. Another one I've already talked about. But this guy's wife is murdered by someone in a samurai mask with with a sword, and he starts to see the samurai show up, in their lives again. But the father-in-law is still not convinced that he wasn't the one who did it. Uh, and they temporarily remove the son from Desmond Carmichael's custody, another author main character. But in this one, it actually kind of worked out. I mean, it's enough of that main character's personality that I could buy it with this one. It's interesting how they make the link between suspects and this samurai, killer. It has something to do with clove cigarettes. One deputy on the force had a crush on Mrs. Carmichael Sandy, who was murdered. And he still holds a grudge against Desmond to this day. And that figures into the plot,
What is this genre? Is it like a thriller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, my descriptive powers may not be doing it justice.
So
At
what is
this
this
time,
list that you're using? How did you make your? How do you
I
get
made
this?
a list on Goodreads. Yeah.
Okay.
Charlie, not right now, please. Anyway, so number 4, and I recommended this one, but you said you'd probably never touch it because of the SEO implications in the title. I really strongly suggest you do, though. The Man with All the Answers. This guy basically reads this girl's mind during sex, when he intuits something about choking, I think. And she confronts him about it, like, how did you know? And he's forced to come clean about this ability that he has, that he can, intuit, what people are thinking, the answers to any question, or what they're thinking ahead of time, what they're going to do. Charlie, not right now. So anyway, she comes to accept it. She says, well, why don't you play the lottery? Why don't you, bet on this sports team? And of course, there's the caveat that no, it's not like that. And as we get into the flashbacks of how he developed this ability in this strange, area of the woods where his cabin, him and his friends rented a cabin, it begins with something that they label the slowness, and it kills one of their friends. He like chokes on his own vomit in slow motion, and you know, he takes what he's learned back into civilization, but he tries to suppress it. Um, uh, I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, it's just
It sounds pretty good.
it it doesn't cheat. It doesn't cheat its way, through the plot. It
Mm.
sets up some rules that are very strictly adhered to, and so Luke Smitherd really, set out, you know, to obey the rules that he made here for this guy's ability and how it affects his loved ones and his own personal life. He kind of just accepts it and tends to go with it and pretend that he doesn't even have these abilities. But of course, there are times where he kind of fudges the truth with his girlfriend after she accepts that this is part of their relationship. There are times where he can't tell her what's going to happen, and he has to downplay that he knows, and she really begrudges him for it. And let's see, number 3, gold famed citrus, which is one of these post-apocalyptic things, where Ray, a surfer and army deserter, and Luz, they kind of hole up in the hills away from civilization during this disastrous thing where dunes mark the whole land, and they live on something called ration colas. Can you imagine how frightening a future that would be, where even water is scarce and you live on something called ration colas, and citrus fruit is like as precious as gold, but most of the time there are these dust bunnies that grow on the inside of them and they're inedible. It's frightening. Hello?
Yeah, it sounds nasty. Sounds nasty.
Okay, so they find this little girl who is basically, abused, neglected, and possibly even molested by her keepers in these encampments that where they trade all sorts of things from citrus fruit to drugs, to weapons, and they kind of take her in the hills and raise her as their own. Of course, the intruders start to close in, and they have to find a new home. And of course, Ray and Luz get separated. Ray gets separated from Luz and the little girl, and from there it spirals into worse and worse situations. You think one of the characters is dead, and they're not for a little while, but they may be later. I don't want to spoil it, but Gold Fame Citrus also has a very flowery, language. I won't say purple prose, but the author, Claire Vay Watkins, really took her time to develop, each scene. And am I boring you?
Excuse me?
Am I boring anyone?
I don't know.
No.
I'm sure you're boring somebody.
So, God damn it, Charlie. If she doesn't stop running while I'm trying to do this, that's a 7th time I've put her down. Anyway, number 2 is Stonefish, which
be careful. You only have 2 more times.
Right. Stonefish, I've tried to explain this and what is so captivating about it, but I have as yet not been able to convey just how awesome it is. And you guys called it a snooze fest, so I don't know if I should.
Gregor called it a snooze fest. I probably didn't say anything.
So this journalist, basically gets taken in by the same guy he's investigating who disappeared. And they go into this place called the Stonefish house. And they learn that cryptids are basically these creatures that fold and unfold time and space. And they love to taunt us, hominids. And they can take all sorts of different forms, including human form in our lives, and we're never the wiser for it. And the main
I don't
character,
think I said this is a snooze fest. I've not read
well,
it.
Will did, but you said, yeah, this doesn't sound very good.
I might have, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Gregor Makarios, the character that the journalist was searching for, basically unravels the secrets of the universe to him, and it's kind of disappointing what Din what he learns, about how the meaning of life is summed up in relation to these cryptid creatures from beyond time and space. Um, I think they're called Archons, is Gregor's pet name for them. Anyway, Stonefish, very good. And finally, my number one, and it wasn't even close, Nightland Racer by Fenton Wood. Fenton Wood adapts the Nightland mythology from William Hope Hodgson and turns it into a goddamn cosmic NASCAR slash kamikaze mission from the government. I mean, it's fucking wild. I mean, and there's like a horse made of shadow that's like gigantic, as tall as a skyscraper, and he ends up riding it towards the end to get to his destination. There are bug people that capture him at one point. It just goes on and on. The world building in this is off the fucking charts. I could not imagine a top 10 list this year without this as number one for me.
And that's interesting because this was a did not finish for me.
And I will never forgive you for it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that, there's a lot of imaginative stuff going on in it, but like it's like too much. It's like anything can happen, so it's just kind of boring.
Yeah. It is far from boring, though. That's the thing.
It bored me because if it's just like there's no stakes, it's like anything could possibly happen. It's just kind of like, okay, something else is happening. That's weird.
Mhm.
So, I understand why you like it though.
Whatever.
And I think that humans shouldn't listen to me. They should listen to you and give it a try.
Yeah. If you'll give the man with all the answers or the Lunchling a try, I don't give a shit. I did have some close calls. Or some ones, honorable mentions that I almost put on there, by the way, though. One
The
of them,
Lunchling sounds good to me.
yeah.
I put that on my list.
Well, Anathema was another one that I was very close to putting on my top 10. And the reason I didn't is because it overlapped so much with the Lunchling. An author main character again, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I dislike the author main character trope as
And
well.
well, and it also dealt with a kid who had like this imaginary friend or something that was used to keep him in line, just like the Lunchling. It overlaps so much. I will say that this one was much more intense than the Lunchling, though, and the action and just the pain and suffering every character goes through in their fight, for survival is off the charts. I almost put this one on there. Let's see, a Hunter Shea novel almost made it on the list too. To the Devil, a Cryptid, about a goat man. And
Yeah, I have to read that one.
These podcasters assemble on the goat man's bridge, and one of them gets killed. And well, to say any more, I can't say any more than that. But basically, it's a nonstop action sequence from then on, and how the goat man came to be in the prologue was pretty ironic and a little goofy, but also kind of cool.
Have you read Creature? by Hunter Shea?
Creature, no.
Yeah, that's supposed to be
But
his.
that one
Supposed to be his
almost
best book.
made my list too. Oh, really?
Mhm.
Creature.
Yeah, Creature.
Okay. Well,
I've not read it yet, but I eventually will. I read a book by him this year as well, The Waiting. It was pretty good.
yeah. So there we have it. There's my earth-shattering, list.
Fantastic list. Fantastic list.
Are you mocking
You are
me?
the creature feature man now.
Are you being facetious?
What are you talking about?
Are you
No.
being facetious that
Didn't you
it's
hear about my
fantastic?
New Year's? Didn't you hear
Oh,
about
yeah.
my New Year's resolution?
Yeah. Well, which ones
So
would you read from this list? Besides, you said the Lunchling. What else would you?
the
Either of you
Lunchling,
read?
and then I mean, the Man with All the Answers might be good. I mean, I don't, you know, I might, I would possibly read that. I would, let's see, and then the Har maybe,
Mm,
but the other ones didn't grab me as far as a premise wise.
hmm.
How about you, Ben? Is there any on this list that you would consider reading?
The Har and Steel Breeze sound pretty fascinating.
Cool. I thought Devil in the Dark Woods would be up your alley. But
I might be interested in that one. Yeah.
I'm telling you, boys, Nightland Racer, you're missing out though if you don't.
I know.
You'd probably like
I mean,
Gold
like I
Fame
said, I
Citrus
gave it a
too,
good
Ben.
whirl.
Gold Fame Citrus is kind of from that artsy sensibility that's also kind of punkish. I mean, you'd probably like that one too, but
That one actually did sound like it had an interesting world in it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I did kind of lean into creature features this year. Like I said, I'm still trying to catch up on all the Halloween reading I've stockpiled all these years.